This is UNHCR's Voluntary Repatriation Centre in Chamkani, Peshawar. The centre provides services to Afghan refugees opting to return voluntarily to Afghanistan. A returning refugee passes through various steps, which we will see here. The Voluntary Repatriation Centre is a facility which not only serves as the starting point for UNHCR's voluntary repatriation process, but also provides many other services and facilities for the repatriating refugees. This short video aims to explain the steps involved in the repatriation process, from the arrival of the refugees at the center until their departure for the border at Torkham. We follow along Shafiqullah, an Afghan refugee, and his family as they pass through the steps of the repatriation process. Afghan refugee families arrive at the Voluntary Repatriation Centre on their designated date. Appointments in Peshawar are made in advance. Vehicles hired by the families with all their possessions are parked in the parking area, where staff from UNHCR and Commissionerate for Afghan Refugees start their luggage verification process. The luggage is physically inspected and listed on a verification card along with quantities. Luggage verification cards serve as an attestation by UNHCR and Commissionerate for Afghan Refugees of the type and quantity of household items for each refugee family. These cards are handed over to the refugees to take along with them on their journey to Afghanistan. These cards are useful if the vehicle is stopped for checking by customs officials. The refugee family is then guided to a waiting area, where the head of household approaches a screening counter. Here, UNHCR and Commissionerate for Afghan Refugees staff perform an initial screening of the family to check whether they have a valid proof of registration or POR card. Staff also identify non-registered family members who do not proceed through the remainder of the process. UNHCR only assists valid POR card holders at the VRC, and only registered Afghan refugees are eligible for UNHCR's Return and Reintegration Cash Grant. During this initial screening, UNHCR protection staff also identify refugee family members with medical vulnerabilities or any form of physical disabilities. All such families are fast-tracked through the repatriation process. A red identification card is issued to the family, which signals all staff at the VRC to assist the family on a priority. Afghan refugees holding valid POR cards are directed to the family verification area, where staff interviews the head of the household and confirm their family composition is correct. Shafiqullah and his mother arrived at the VRC as one family. Since Shafiqullah has a nuclear family, which is regarded as a basic social unit, his mother will be processed as an individual issued with a separate voluntary repatriation form. Family verification helps identifying incorrect family compositions and significantly reduces the possibility of fraud in the process. Here, refugees are also interviewed in the exit questionnaire area. Exit questionnaire interview is part of UNHCR's overall refugee protection monitoring. Refugees are asked questions related to their stay in Pakistan, their reasons for repatriation, and whether they have faced any harassment, extortion, arrest, or detention in Pakistan. This data is collected and later analyzed in order to design intervention related to specific concern. The exit questionnaire also determines the voluntariness of the repatriation process. Refugee families are then directed towards the Nadra deregistration point. Here, the National Database and Registration Authority deregisters POR card holders by using fingerprint biometrics, which records their status as repatriated in the database. The Nadra database system in this area is linked to the UNHCR's Voluntary Repatriation Form system in the next step of the process. The most important and crucial step in the voluntary repatriation process is the issuance of the voluntary repatriation form. This is a key document that enables refugees to pick up UNHCR's return and integration cash grant at centers in Afghanistan. The voluntary repatriation form process is directly linked to the NADRA database, from where it retrieves the particulars of each refugee family. The form is printed on a special paper which is watermarked to protect against forgery. The form contains details of all family members, along with their photographs taken at the center. At this point, their POR cards are cut with scissors in the left-hand corner, rendering them invalid. The refugee is then asked to put their thumb impression and signature on the form before they are directed towards the iris scanning area. Iris scanning has been part of the voluntary repatriation process since 2002. UNHCR's iris database contains data of all Afghan refugees who have repatriated to Afghanistan with UNHCR's assistance since 2002. The iris machine operator guides the refugee to the correct position in front of the iris device. The iris capture device takes high-resolution images of the eye and converts these to a digital format. The template is then assigned an identification number. It is important to note that the iris database does not contain any other biographical data of the individual. Only iris information is stored in the database, which is used for identification purposes only. Refugees who successfully enroll in the system get a printed label with a barcode, which is pasted on the back of the voluntary repatriation form. These labels are then scanned at the UNHCR center in Afghanistan, and cash assistance is then issued to the refugee. The VRC also has a protection desk, which caters to all protection-related issues. Refugees are directed towards the protection desk in case they have any specific protection concerns. Cases can also be referred to the protection unit at UNHCR sub-office in Peshawar. The protection desk also lists persons with specific needs for onward sharing with encashment centers in Afghanistan. The final step in the process directs the returning family towards the validation point. UNHCR staff give a final review of the completed voluntary repatriation form and double-check for errors or omissions. The form is then secured in a plastic cover and handed over to the refugee. From here, the refugee family is led back to the parking area for departure.